Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Jake Gordon and Alex Lord. Tomorrow is the day we've all been waiting for. The NLDS starts, and I woke up just feeling different today. And tomorrow I'm going to wake up feeling even more different. I'm glad there's like a college football slate leading into the game, so I don't have to sit there and wait till like 6 o'clock for it to start because I'm going to be ready to go. And then I get LSU playing at noon. I mean, come on. I'm going to have a drink in hand. And then I get a 3:30 Alabama Texas A&M game. We get a good college football game, and then that leads right into the Braves game. Truist Park's going to be rocking. Super excited. I wanted to talk today about it leading off the show. The differences between both of these teams. Now the Phillies, pretty similar. You know, they got some younger guys. I really like Christopher Sanchez. We'll see what his role is in the playoffs. I really like what I saw out of him. I think he's going to be a part. They definitely have Soto. They definitely have Craig Kimbrell. They got some high leverage relievers that are different. And they obviously have Trey Turner, who is a superstar. I don't care how he hit. And this is something that I always talk about is like Trey Turner and JT Realmuto. Like they didn't have the kind of seasons that they want. But in the postseason, like I don't care. Same thing with Aaron Nola. Like I don't care. Like those guys are good players and they could show up on any given day. Now they may have bad games, bad series, but they're capable of having an impact in this series. Trey Turner's a stud, maybe the best shortstop in baseball. He's going to have an impact in the series. On the other hand, the Braves, this is an entirely different team. And Alex, I'll give it to you. You can start talking about these Braves differences because I don't want to go on a huge tangent because you can go on forever. So I'll hand it off to you and talk about some of the difference between this year and last year because last year doesn't matter. And this Braves team is so much different. It's not even funny.
Yeah, I think all of us could go on and talk about the exact. I'll just go one and pass it to you guys, and we could just pass it around. I mean, it's clear Ronald Acuna Jr. being fully healthy is the biggest difference maker from this year to last year, other than maybe the starters being fully healthy. A full healthy Ronald Acuna Jr. and he was still this maybe the second most impactful hitter in last year's series behind Matt Olson, and now he's fully healthy. I think that's the biggest difference between this year and last year's, at least offensively.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it was the pitching staff being healthy too. I mean, the healthy is subjective here. Like I said, Max Fried still got a blister on his finger or whatever, but it'll be nice that, we're not literally coming in on two broken legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and they said Max Fried's blister it healed really well, so I'm feeling really positive about him in Game 2. And I know he had like a couple weeks off, but look what he did last time when he had 3 months off pitching against the Cubs. Now the Phillies are better than the Cubs, but he came in and looked like $1,000,000. I'm expecting him to go out there and shove in Game 2, and I think the same thing from Spencer Strider. So if this Braves offense can put up runs, and then obviously, I mean, huge. Like, what about Ronald's best friend? Ozzy's actually playing in the series. Like, people always forget about Ozzy Albies. The guy wasn't even in the series. He's outside of Jose Altuve. There isn't a better second baseman in baseball than Ozzy Albies. And he hasn't had the greatest postseason success so far in his career, but he's an impact player. And just having him out there, different vibes, different energy, huge impact. And then I'll just throw this one at you, Marcell Ozuna. I mean, this guy's a different player. This guy is the best DH in baseball right now. He has 38 homers over the last 5 months to go with like 95 RBIs and a 1,000 OPS. The guy's an absolute stud, and he's hotter than Hades, and he has had big moments in the playoffs, particularly against the Braves. So we know he can live up to the expectations that are going to come in October.
As I mentioned before, I mean, Matt Olson was by far the best offensive player in last year's NLDS. But if you compare this season to last season, it's not even close. He was double the player he was last year this year. Franchise record in home runs. He's the home run leader. He's the RBI leader. Matt Olson, again, he was incredible. He was the only guy who really showed up other than Ronald Acuna Jr. in last year's NLDS. But if we're talking about the whole body of work, I mean, Matt Olson is twice the player he was last year.
Yeah, and you can say the same thing about Eddie Rosario. That's maybe 100 times the player. I mean, Eddie Rosario was literally a blind man walking. He had vision issues, and those are now gone. He had a very good season this year, hit 260, 270 or whatever with 22 bombs, not even playing every single day. If the guy was out there every single day, he might have hit 30 homers. Just another guy in this lineup that can change the game with one swing in the bat. And we've seen what he's done in the postseason. Wouldn't be surprised if he had some big moments in this series if the Braves are to move on. And then, of course, Sean Murphy. Sean Murphy's on there. Now, Sean Murphy has really struggled in the second half, and obviously his defense is his calling card. But I think having him back there with especially some young pitchers in a potential Game 3, Max Fried, Spencer Strider, I'm interested to see how they divvy up the catchers things. Is it going to be Sean Murphy all 5 games? Are they going to throw Darnold in there? Maybe if they need a spark offensively, we'll see, but that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think that Sean Murphy's – I saw some stats about how he is the unluckiest hitter in the second half of the season. And the guys who are in that same realm of unlucky have like an 800 OPS, and he's at like a 560 or 580 OPS. So I do think that, what goes around comes around. Regression is in line. Whether it happens across these 5 games, best of 5, I am not sure. But Austin Riley last year, coming into the postseason, was a tomato can, was slumping really bad. He didn't do anything much in the NLDS. And this year, I mean, he's probably having the best, and it's a down year for third baseman, but he's probably having the best year among all third basemen this year. So he's another guy that is coming into the playoffs who's performing much better than he was last year.
Yeah, you don't get Charlie Morton because of the injury, so there are some negatives. I don't think this bullpen is as good as the one last year. You obviously don't have Rafael Iglesias and Kenley Jansen back there, so I think you lose a bit on the bullpen size. But we're gonna find out about this Braves bullpen. I mean, I know you said it yesterday being a key to this game or a key to this series, but yeah, this Braves bullpen. Because the Phillies got guys, and if they get leads late in games, you expect them more often than not to close the game. And you think that about every bullpen, but the Braves bullpen has either been really good or really shaky, and it was shaky to end the year. So I'm interested to see how they approach it, especially if they have to go 5 to 6 innings a game. Like, who do they use? Who do they not use? Are there any surprises? Do they throw Ben Heller out there? Is Nick Anderson going to be on the roster? Like, there's some things that they're going to have to figure out, because once you get outside of those top 3-4 guys, there's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be one of those things to where if they have an ugly game one, it's just going to be an uphill battle from there. I just think you cannot come out flat in game one and use a bunch of guys out of the bullpen, because you're probably going to end up using your best guys. And then after that, it's just going to snowball. It's kind of what we saw last year, a little similar, but yeah, you cannot lose game one in my opinion.
Last year, the bullpen was, definitely better than this year's, but also the starters didn't give us any length last year outside of Kyle Wright. So that's a big thing. The bullpen is kind of, it goes hand in hand. So like if the starters give you length, then we are just high leverage guys. And if the high leverage guys fail you, I mean, that's just, you're SOL. That's just as simple as that. You need your high level guys to perform, and you need your starters to give you some length. It's the playoffs though, and you can't necessarily expect Max Fried and Spencer Strider to give you 7 scoreless. So it goes hand in hand. That last year, our bullpen kind of was rough, but our starters didn't give us any length outside of Kyle Wright.
Yeah, well, and that's the biggest key. And I said it yesterday. The X factor in this whole series is Spencer Strider. Like, just having him healthy and against a team that he has dominated. And I said it on Twitter yesterday. The message of Spencer Strider in game one, especially against Ranger Suarez. I know he's had some success against the Braves, but he hasn't pitched typically well of late, and this Braves lineup really does kill lefties. I think they're going to score on Ranger Suarez. The message to Max Fried is, hey, don't get cute. Don't be perfect. We don't need 15 strikeouts, man. Don't walk batters. If they tag you for a homer, then don't give up that 3-run homer, because that's really been the thing that's plagued him all year. There's been so many outings where Spencer Strider has gone 6 scoreless innings, and then in the 7th inning gives up a 3-run homer, or he goes 5 scoreless and just gives up that 1 3-run homer. He hasn't really given up as many homers as people think. People think he struggles with the long ball. No, he doesn't struggle with the long ball more than a regular pitcher. Like, I think he's probably below league average when it comes to homers. It's the 3-run homers. It's the giving them up like that. So don't walk players. Don't put free guys on base. And then if you're in those situations, you got to be more careful. You can't just leave a 98-mile-per-hour fastball over the middle of the plate.
Yeah, we talked about it earlier in the season after Max Fried had a slippery start and then buckled down and, fought through it, gave us like 6 quality innings. Spencer Strider just needs to do that. You get a guy on base. You don't need to strike out the side and not even let him get to second base. Like, we just need like what you said. You don't need to be perfect, Spencer. You just need to be good enough. Because like I've said it again, this offense is so good. It's good enough to carry this pitching staff to a World Series. It's that simple. Spencer Strider is, got the nastiest stuff in baseball. There's no doubt about that. It's just that he gets in his own head. He thinks that he has to be perfect, I guess, where he doesn't have that Max Fried where he just takes what the batter gives you, takes what the offense gives you. And it's that simple that's what Spencer – and you need Max Fried almost in his ear to kind of be like, hey, I know Max Fried is focusing on his stuff, his start in game 2, but Spencer Strider really needs to take a note from his friend Max.
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting him to. And listen, 2 or 3 runs over 6 innings, which he could give us a 7. He could give us 7 scoreless. We don't need it, though. I guarantee you we don't need it. This team is not last year, and the thing is we are going to score runs. I can guarantee, especially not against your top guy. Coming up after the break, we're going to take a look at the Falcons matchup with the Texans in Week 5.